All right, we've got short time together. We finished up last week in Exodus chapter 21, verse 26, and we were talking about God's plan of compensation and punishment fits the crime kind of understanding. And it's kind of interesting that the entire judicial system that we operate under today was prescribed here. Now, I know there's a lot of you that say that I'm not under the law, I'm saved by grace, I don't have to do this and I don't have to do that, and you don't for your salvation. But let me assure you that if you are not under God's form of justice and God's form of law, from a framework perspective, there would be chaos. There'd be rioting every day. So this thing that we've created, this monster that we've called the law, orders every part of your life. It is the foundation of the American judicial system. It's the foundation of our government. It is the foundation of our penal system. It's the foundation that says that the punishment should fit the crime. It's the foundation that says the compensation should be based squarely upon the injury. It's where the foundation was laid. That if I cut your ear and you can still work and you can still do these things, I should pay for the medical expense. Okay? But if it has not cost you your job, if you didn't miss any work, if you didn't do this and you didn't do that, I should take care of restoring it back to its original condition. And if you're not horribly scarred and disfigured and you can still get a wife or a husband and nothing really changes, that I should take care of what I did and we should move on. But to make me pay $1 million in compensatory damages because I hurt your feelings and during the 3 weeks in which your ear had to heal, you felt bad because you had to wear a Band-Aid. And people shun people with Band-Aids in our society. And you're no longer able to eat in a restaurant if you have a Band-Aid because the signs say no Band-Aid people allowed. And, of course, you become the scourge of the community, and so you certainly deserve your $1 million. Okay? But the truth of the matter is, in God's economy, you don't. Okay? That we need to all toughen up just a little bit. And we also have the ability not to seek out that form of compensation. You see, the judicial system that God established says that I have the right, but I also have the ability to waive my rights. I have the ability to say, you injured me, but I forgive you. I'm not going to come after you. I have the right to come after you. But Yeshua told his disciples, don't go out there and seek revenge. Don't go out there because you got injured, go injure that party. Forgive them. You have the right to go after them and seek justice. You have the right to go after them and sue them. You have the right to go after them and have them punished. That was the law of Moses. That was given in the Bible. You have that right. But you also have the right to say, I forgive you. You also have the right to say, you know what, you did that to me, and it hurt. But I'm not going to come after you, and I'm not going to take your home, and I'm not going to take your livestock, I'm not going to take your children, I'm not going to take these things from you. I forgive you. If we didn't have a system set up this way that we could then see grace at work, then what would we measure it against? If everything was law and lawsuit and I didn't have the grace of Messiah to be able to say, I forgive you, how would we be able to see Messiah working in us? Settle your quarrels and your differences among yourself. Matthew 18. Settle them. Okay, if you injure me, you should offer to pay for my medical expenses. Then the matter's settled. I don't have to accept it, but that should be your offer. Listen, I'm sorry I hurt you. How much were the doctor's bills? Let me pay that for you. You shouldn't have to go out of pocket because of my issue. That's fair. If I lose wages, you might say, well, listen, I want to take care of your groceries. I want to take care of this for you while you're out of work. Keeps you from going out and suing each other and taking an adversarial position, because unless they did it to you on purpose, and if you did it to you on purpose, then it comes under the criminal system. But if you and I are backing out of the parking lot at the same time, and both of our cell phones ring at the same time because I'm calling you, okay, and we both back into each other, okay, what should we do? Should we call the police and should we have a big investigation? Should we file lots of papers and square off with each other? Or should we stand out there like the fools that we are, okay, laugh about it and then go take care of it and figure out the best, most equitable solution, okay, and then come back in next week to the Bible study and give a praise report about what fools we were for answering our cell phones while we were backing our cars out, and how God kept our relationship intact, because God doesn't get any glory when you win the lawsuit. As a matter of fact, when you give your 40% to your attorney, 60% maybe, and you see that person the next week at the grocery store, now you have a broken relationship, but you got some money. Over the years, the money will mean a whole lot less to you, and the broken relationship will last forever. And so when God set up the system of justice, he said, you have the right. When Messiah came, he said, you have the right, but you now have the right to release it. Grace and law, not under the law, for salvation. But God's system of justice is the system of order of this country. It's right here, established right here in Exodus, in this entire judicial system. And so when we look at criminal codes and things like that, it's all based here. As we get further into chapter 22, you'll find out that every one of you who own a home, your boundaries were established based on the definition in Exodus. Every one of you. So we have this system, and as we get into animals, and animals were property. And in an agricultural society, you have to remember that this isn't an industrial society, this is an agricultural society. Animals did the work. Animals and men did the work. And so if you lose a plow horse, or you lose a steer that pulls a plow because of your negligence, because you left an open pit and the ox fell into the pit, and I can't plow my field and I lose my entire crop, I have significant damage due to your negligence. So you need to take care of that. As we get into chapter 22, we get into a concept where God clearly establishes restitution. And he begins to put the boundaries. So first you have, here's the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth concept. And that's established in chapter 21. The punishment should fit the crime. Now, how do we set up restitution? Okay. Anybody know the Hebrew word for restitution? Shalom. Not shalom, shalom. One letter difference, an A as opposed to an O. Shalom. S-H-A-L-A-M. Shalom, peace and health. Shalom, restitution. Same derivative word. When restitution is made, you get peace. When you feel accurately and adequately and fairly dealt with, what do you have? You have peace. You settle your offense, you settle your differences, what happens? You have peace. What are we trying to establish? What are they calling this thing in Israel? They call it the what accord? The peace accord. They call it the peace accord. Okay? Why? Because when there is what they consider to be their plan, okay, that there will be equitable, that they will have a peace accord. They will have a shalom accord. Okay? Making restitution, establishing shalom. So restitution, this concept of shalom is referenced in chapter 22 6 times, because God wants us to understand that when there is an offense, that there should be boundaries placed on restitution. What is adequate compensation? Now, we have the legal field in America that makes their living on percentage-based lawsuits based on liability. You know, call 1-800, you did it. 1-800, it's his fault. You have all these things, called Goldberg, and Goldberg, in case, the oil is about to approach your home. Okay? If you happen to live 50 miles out to sea and you think the oil is going to hit you, call them now, get your lawsuit in early. These are the new commercials that are out. Okay? If you think the oil is going to affect you, get in early, okay, before it gets there. Call this number. It's pretty amazing what's going on. Okay? We've become a society that loves to sue. Kids today, when I was a kid, we had Max the cop. Max walked the beat in our neighborhood. Okay? You knew the neighborhood cop. Okay? Max was a member of the family. Max would stop by, they'd have a cup of coffee, you'd see him walk in his uniform, everybody knew Max. When you walked to school, you'd see Max. When you got out of school, you'd see Max. And Max was the neighborhood, and you'd hang out at the barber shop, and you'd see Max at the gas station, you'd see Max at the drugstore. Max was everywhere. And we had a great respect. And you were a hoodlum if you got picked up by the police. I mean, that was the term. You were a hoodlum. What were the offenses in the 50s? Smoking and chewing gum. Criminal. Smoking and chewing gum at school you get expelled for that stuff, man. That was serious stuff. Now, 3 days out of school if you bring a knife over 4 inches. And a knife, but knife over 4 inches, it's like 3 days of suspension. Okay? If you bring a knife under 4 inches, a knife to school? We're on Cinco de Mayo. Right. Chewing gum was a grievous offense. Smoking was bad. You were a bad kid. What's that?
I said the same token. We live in a rural community. The kids used to bring their guns to school, put in their locker, and go hunting there.
That was acceptable. Right. You gave your gun to the head nun? Yeah. Fine. So you'd go hunting with a nun?
Just with the gun, no.
I knew they were tough, but I didn't realize they cleaned your guns while you were in school.
Stick them in their arms. And we all had sheath knives. I mean, nobody ever thought of doing what they're doing today.
So they have no respect. Okay? Kids today have no regard about getting picked up, about having their own lawyers. There's a whole new economy out there of kids, 19, 20-year-old kids, hiring a lawyer, suing their parents, and having their parents pay their lawyer fees. This is the kind of stuff that's going on out there. We've made it so, the boundaries have become so soft that when we look at these things in today's economy, these things are hard lines. These are hard boundaries. They're clear-cut. And what we've done is we've taken this issue of human rights, and now we've allowed murder to enter into our society as being legal and legislated. Okay? Goes against God's word. So in chapter 22, we're reading about when a man steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, he shall pay 5 oxen for the ox or 4 sheep for the sheep. If the thief is seized while tunneling and he is beaten to death, there is no blood guilt in this case. If the sun is risen on him, there is blood guilt. What does that mean? Under the cloak of darkness at night, okay, I don't know if this person has a weapon. I don't know what they're doing. I can't see them. I don't know if they're just there to rob me, or they're there to kill me, or they're there to rob me and kill me. Okay? So if I kill him, okay, I'm not guilty for the blood that's on my hands. However, if I can see him and he doesn't have a weapon and I kill him, then his blood's on my hands. I've used excessive force. Restraining him is one thing. Okay? Calling somebody to restrain him is the same thing. Okay? But killing him in daylight, knowing that he doesn't have a weapon, okay, makes me guilty of murder. It's pretty clear-cut. Okay, so when we have these situations where somebody was breaking in, and look at the law today. If someone is breaking into my home, I have the right to defend my property.
In some states.
in some states. That's right. So see, it's different. It's a shifting thing. So if you live in Columbus, Georgia, and you can walk across the street into Alabama, literally, you can walk across in Georgia and Alabama, any one of these border towns. Then what's legal in one state, it may not be legal in another state. So there's no clear. You're under this jurisdictional boundaries of what the law is. So you may be able to shoot somebody during the day for breaking into your house in Alabama, but in Georgia that would be considered murder. So there's no clear cut. Here God's saying, daylight, it's not okay. Nighttime, it's okay. It's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. He must make restitution. If he lacks the means, he shall be sold for his theft. So sold into slavery. They pay money for slaves. Okay? Indentured servants. So if it's a Hebrew, it's an indentured servant. If it's a non-Hebrew, it becomes a slave. It becomes a servant. But if what he stole, whether ox or ass or sheep, is found alive in his possession, he shall pay double. Why is that? Right.
Just trying to deter him from doing it again.
Correct. Okay? If I make compensation so severe, okay, look at what's happened. The traffic system. Anybody driven from Birmingham to Atlanta lately? 55 miles most of the way, isn't it? And it says, and they put up these little cones to say it's a work zone. And the big sign says, double the fine when you're in a work zone. And it's pretty much a work zone from here to there. And they know that people aren't going to obey the speed limit because the signs are a little bit further apart than they were before. When they were 70, okay, you always knew it was 70. But now it's 55, you have to wonder, am I still in a 55? Well, I must not be in a 55. The road sure looks good, and boy, you hit it, and all of a sudden you're there. Okay? And they say, well, it said 55, it never changed. Oh, well, I thought because it was, no, it never said you're out leaving a work zone. Oh, not only does it have to say you're leaving, that the speed limit's back to 70, but it has to say you're leaving a work zone too. Okay, there's all these, because they're trying to deter and drive up revenue. Yes, Sarah?
Is that a work zone only if there are people working?
I have no idea.
No. Bismarck is a work zone.
So they're trying to accomplish two things. Okay? When Alabama's death toll goes up, okay, their funding goes down. Okay, well, they don't have a safe road system, a safe highway system, or safe traffic deterrence to keep people from breaking the law. Okay, most accidents occur over 55 miles an hour, so they're driving people back to 55. But they also are revenue generators. All right? And that old thing that if it's the last week of the month, people are trying to get their quotas, let me assure you that everybody can say, oh, no, we don't do that, we don't do that, we don't do that. No, we don't do that in writing, is what they're saying. No, we don't publish that as the policy, but that's the system. So they're trying to create deterrence. We put locks on doors as what? Does a lock on a door really stop somebody from breaking into your home? No, but it's a deterrent. Does locking your car prohibit a thief from breaking into your car? It doesn't, but it's a deterrent. Okay? So if they're walking in a parking lot and they check every door and your door's locked, they'll probably try to go find a door that's unlocked. But if they can't find a door that's unlocked, they'll break into a car. It's just a deterrent. Okay? You put up a sign. If you're the only sign in the neighborhood that this house is protected by an alarm system, even if you don't have an alarm system, and your neighbors on either side of you don't have the sign, it's a higher probability that they'll break in. If there's going to be a break-in, it's going to be at your neighbor's house and not at yours, just because the sign itself is a deterrent. Yes?
I'm wondering also about the shalom. If a person has their ox stolen and they get it back, do they think, well, I got my ox back, but what a hassle. I missed having my ox. And so maybe a double restitution makes the person feel shalom. Hey, listen, at least I made a profit on it. It was a hassle, but now I'm satisfied.
Right, he feels shalom after he gets shalom.
He gets a little more.
Remember, shalom comes first, then shalom. Okay, it's alphabetical. Shalom, A before O. Okay, you get your restitution, then you get your peace. Okay, now if you have shalom, 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 then you've gotten your peace of restitution, and it gives you peace. Different peace. Yes, Alan?
I was thinking if I stole your ox, and then I'd have to give you 2 oxen, I'm essentially losing an ox, which is what I tried to do to you.
Correct. That's exactly right. It's an eye for an eye. It's a very simple system, and it's a deterrent.
If I didn't have one, then I'm sold into slavery.
That's correct. That is correct. So if you're just a plain old thief, you're out of here. When a man lets his livestock loose to graze in another's land and so allows a field or vineyard to be grazed bare, he must make restitution for the impairment of that field or vineyard. Okay, so remember, fences, no fences. Okay? Our concept of fences are new. It's a modern concept. Okay? The marker of a boundary was marked with a stone. Okay? What does a surveyor use today? Use a pin. They call it a pin, right? Okay, a stone, a pin marks the corner of your lot. Okay, so it's a surveyor's pin. Okay, they put a flag on it for as long as the flag will stay there, but they don't stay there long. But you look out when we walked our property to walk the boundaries. Okay, we started at the corner pin. And we walked until we found the next pin, and then we turned left and we went to the next pin, and then we turned again and we went to the next pin, and that walked to make sure, and we looked at it and said, yep, those are the boundaries. Okay. So we found the 4 pins, and that became our property. So that's what they had. They had stones. Okay. How many of you live in a house? Okay. And your house has a survey of some kind. From one point or another, there's a survey. Every house has to have one. Okay. There's a plat. There's something that Ed's department, and if you're in Jefferson County, they have on record that establishes the longitude and latitude and corner boundaries. Okay? And when you go to sell that property, the law says that you can only sell, you can't be any infringements on other people's properties, those kind of things. Doesn't that make you under the law? Therefore, you're under the law. Whether you like the concept of the law or not, the law has been your protection all along, from border disputes, boundary disputes, from people stepping on your property, building on your property, infringing on your property, encroaching on your property, taking what doesn't belong to them. That was the law that was established in Exodus. So how many of you are no longer under the law? It's a fairly lame statement when you think about it in God's economy. Okay? That this whole division that says, oh, I'm saved by, yes, you are saved by grace. No question about it. But this, I'm no longer under the law. Okay? As if it was some yoke, as if it was some heavy weight that was pressed upon you, that was so oppressive, that was so prohibitive, that was so exclusionary, that was so difficult to live within. Okay? That had Messiah not come, Messiah said, I did not come to abolish the law. He didn't come to create boundary disputes. He didn't come to create division with people. He didn't come to create property lawsuits, and he didn't come to set up a whole new system. He came to save the people, to bring salvation to mankind, not to abolish the law or the prophets, but to fulfill them. No longer was your entrance in heaven under the sacrificial system, but all this that you all live under, if you own a home or you own a business or you own any property anywhere, those 4 boundary stakes that are in the ground are found in the law of Moses.
But Rabbi, the big picture here is that when he took these people out of slavery under grace and delivered them, just like we're all delivered out from under, by grace, that God's law was given to set these people apart in a pagan world that we were talking about before and say, these are my people, this is the instructions I'm giving them, and by them doing that, the world will give knowledge that they're living as a holy people unto me, a holy God, and I get glory for that. I mean, it's, and that's
So if you want to be set apart, do you write a whole new set of rules, or do you weigh into the rules that were established? Okay? Weigh into God's rules. Okay? So when we look at this and we say, are we a Torah-observant congregation? No, you don't ever hear me say to you, you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you have to do that. You want to cover your head, cover your head. You want to leave your head uncovered, leave your head uncovered. You want to wear a tallis, wear a tallis. If you don't want to wear a tallis, don't wear a tallis. Women, you want to cover your head, cover your head. If you don't want to cover your head, don't cover your head. You want to stand when we stand, stand. If you want to sit when you sit, sit. If you don't want to, if you want to go up when we go down, and you want to go down, doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to the Lord. Okay? None of that determines your relationship or the condition of your heart in God's economy. None of that. Okay? I don't believe in legalism of any kind. Okay? And I stand with Paul. Legalism is a worse offense than pretty much anything. When I choose to lord over you and I tell you, you must do something in order to line up with the Word of God, who the heck am I? I'm not the Holy Spirit. Some of you come to me and say, the Lord's really quickened me to start wearing a kippah and a tallit. And I say, great, then you heard from the Lord. But you didn't hear from me to tell you you have to do that to stand in this sanctuary and praise the Lord.
That's because Paul says legalism and grace cannot live in the same house. That's why he sent Hagar out the second time in Ishmael, because Ishmael and Isaac could not live in the same house.
That's what I'm talking about.
Amen to God.
That's what I'm talking about. So we read this to understand that foundation. The house of God was built on a firm foundation of rock. And choosing to live in the seventh story of the house, in the penthouse in a seven-story building, and say, I'm no longer under the infrastructure or the foundation of this, well, when you flush your toilet, then you probably don't have it go anywhere. Because the whole infrastructure, because the whole system that was established is completely buried in the foundation. It's all underground. Oh, well, I'm not under the plumbing anymore. Well, then,
Good luck with that.
yeah. Yeah, call me next week and tell me how much you're enjoying that. Okay?
Where do you think that term comes from?
The potty?
No.
Oh.
Statement that,
We're no longer under the law?
yeah, because that's not even in the Word.
That's not in the Word. Okay?
Out here in chapter 6 of Romans, Paul said, then what? Shall we sin because we are not under the law but under grace? Certainly not.
You want to know where it came from? Let me recommend two really strong books for you. 2 Minute Warning and Messianic Church Arising. Okay? Two books that tell you where all this stuff began. Okay? It's anti-Semitic at its very core. Okay? This whole concept of taking and picking and choosing the part of the Word of God you want to obey, or I'm a New Testament only congregation, we're a Yeshua only congregation, I'm a God only congregation. God only. Is it all about Yeshua? It's all about Yeshua to get to God, to get to God's plan. It says, no one comes to the Father but through the Son. What are you doing in the synagogue? I'm about my Father's business. If you know me, then you know my Father. It's not if you know my Father, you know me. If you hear me, you hear my Father. If you see me, you see my Father. What did I come to do? I came to do my Father's work. This is the foundation. This is His plan for all mankind. So when we take a look at Him being the fulfillment of it, not the abolishment of it, but the fulfillment of it, we see that yes, we have this now. We now have the strong foundation of a law, of a system of borders and boundaries and structure and infrastructure. And I can pull on it and I can rest upon it and I can draw it and I can play that card anytime I want. But because I have a faith and a belief in Messiah, Messiah lives in me, I can forgive you and not seek out restitution.
That's liberty. That's the liberty.
That's the liberty. That's the freedom in Messiah. And that's grace at work. That's when you say, everybody else that this happened with, they want to line up and throw me in jail. They want to sue me. Why do you say you're forgiven? Because he who is in me is greater than he who is in the world. And when you see all this at work, and if you don't understand, what rights do you have in Messiah? What rights do you have to waive and give up? You better know your rights. You better know what it is that He's done for you, what He's given you. And the last time you were forgiven for something, before you start withholding your forgiveness from somebody else because it's so much more grievous crime that's ever been done to you, let me assure you, you have forgotten what you have been forgiven of. You've forgotten when you encroached and when you trespassed and when you did something and somebody gave you a second chance. And oh, by the way, what wonderful second chance and third chance and 5,000 chance and 10 million chance did God give you to say that you can't lose your salvation? Unless you blaspheme the Holy Spirit, it's the only unforgivable sin. Sure, you're going to get a big back seat. You're going to be cleaning up a lot of lamb poop in the new temple. Okay? Okay? Not a great job, not the job I want. Okay? You'll certainly have a job, but you know what? I'd rather be sitting there in air conditioning, okay, than scooping the poop. Yes?
You are Jewish and you do not know the Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
What hope do you have?
You have a hope that your eyes will be open and you'll accept Him. Okay?
Is that the hope they have?
We also have there's those who have not heard, who have never heard the gospel, that will go into their grave, and the hope is for the resurrection. All Jewish people are built facing east and the Jewish burial is traditionally no embalming and no cremation. People certainly have that option, but under tradition you don't take the lifeblood from a thing, so it goes into the ground. Okay? The caskets are not lined. They don't use big concrete unless there's a local ordinance, but there usually is exemptions for the Jewish section of a cemetery. You don't have to have a vault. And that is so that the entire casket and the body can decay, go into the ground. And we know what happens, that there is life in that, because we know the story of Cain and Abel, and his blood cried out. Why do you ask where my brother is? Because his blood cried out. So we know the life of a thing is in the blood. Look at Leviticus 17:11. So the hope is when Messiah comes, He will raise the dead. Do we know? We do not know. Okay? Our job is to do everything to bring the gospel to every man, woman, and child that we can, so that they would hear. Okay? And everyone has to make a choice and make a decision. What is the hope? The hope is for Messiah. The hope has always been for Messiah. The hope has never changed. God's plan, redemptive plan, God's plan of salvation is substitutionary plan, that He brought a ram for the redemption of Isaac. He brought a lamb for the redemption of the Jewish people out of Egypt, and He brought the Lamb of God, Yeshua, for the redemption of all mankind. Okay? Our understanding of salvation, okay, is the oldest and longest standing understanding of salvation. And all the salvation in the gospel from Matthew forward is built on a Jewish understanding of God's plan of redemption, God's plan of substitution, God sending a sacrifice. We know that Yeshua was not just the Lamb of God, He was also Azazel. He was also the scapegoat. Remember, when He came up out of the water, okay, and the Spirit came down and lit upon Him, what happened to Him? He went out to the desert for 40 days. He went out to the cliffs of Azazel. Okay, those were the cliffs where the enemy took Him for 40 days. The same way in Leviticus, when you see that the priest would lay his hands, one lamb would be sacrificed, one goat would be sacrificed, and one goat would be the scapegoat and be sent out to the desert. Okay, that sins of people would be upon Him to disappear forever. Okay? Well, what happened to Messiah? He went out to the desert. Okay? So he was... It's fulfilled all the way through in the Levitical system every way you can. From the Passover through the Day of Atonement, all the way through, He's the living example of all of that. It's not by accident that these things occurred. It's in fulfillment. And so when He says, I did not come to abolish the law of the prophets, I came to fulfill them, you have to know what was supposed to happen in order to see how it was being fulfilled. And it's very clear. It's not coincidence. It can't be coincidence. It's mathematically impossible. Mathematically impossible under every calculation, from Einstein to the new computer-generated algorithms, that these things are mathematically impossible. So when a fire is started and spreads the thorn so that stacked, standing, or growing grain is consumed, he who started the fire must make restitution. Timothy means, would this be called arson? And is an arsonist punished? Arsonists caught are punished. If they catch them, they're punished. And part of the punishment of an arsonist is almost 100% required to make restitution. Not only must they serve time, but almost in 100% of the awards in an arsonist case is a provision in order for restitution. Because property damage, grain damage, you're taking food, you're taking livelihood from somebody, you're taking their property away. So arson is an offense that requires shalom. When a man gives money or goods to another for safekeeping and they are stolen from the man's house, if the thief is caught, he should pay double. If the thief is not caught, the owner of the house shall depose before God that he has not laid hands on the other's property. You have to be able to be trusted. Now, it's kind of interesting. We've been put in a very interesting position from a stewardship perspective. Many of you heard the story that when I was in college and was given the opportunity to really be tested, it was in my senior year, and I had just finished my student teaching, and I was called in, and I was told that my review had been done and the final evaluation for me to graduate, and all that was done. It was written on a piece of paper, and that Mrs. Solkowski put it in her desk drawer and said to me, now I'm leaving for my lunch hour. Don't go in there and look at it. And of course she left, and I knew she was always gone for 45 minutes, and I'd worked with her for 6 months, and I knew her patterns, and I knew she wouldn't be back, so I went over to the desk and opened it up, and the minute I opened it up, she walked in the door. Now, I learned a very valuable lesson almost 40 years ago. But this is the very lesson, that when you're entrusted with something, don't mess with it. We're over there with keys. The day that we signed the contract with Shades Mountain, they handed me a set of keys to every building and to every room. Nothing was, we weren't even the owners yet. We had just signed a contract. They gave me the keys. Go where you want, do what you need to do. I came across many things of value, many things that were confidential, many things that were private. The minute that I identified that they were confidential or private, I closed them up. I never looked past the fact that, oh, this is confidential, closed it up. Left it where it was, never looked at it again. This is what God's talking about. He's talking about us being able to be trusted. Trusted even when there's temptation. Somebody gives you money to hold for them. They're going overseas. You know they're not even going to be back for 9 months. They're going on a tour of duty or whatever, and they give you $5,000 to put away for them. And you get in a bind. Things get difficult. Do you touch their money knowing that you'll repay it? The answer is no, you don't touch their money. You are entrusted, and no temptation should be put in your path, and God says this to you. Okay? So you're going to give a testimony before God. You shall depose before God that you have not laid hands on the other's property. It means if they give it to you in a sealed envelope, you put it away, you lock it up, and you haven't touched it. And when you go to get it, it's gone and it's been stolen. You stand before God as your witness. You had nothing to do with it. In all charges of misappropriation pertaining to an ox, an ass, a sheep, a garment, or other loss, whereof one party alleges, this is it, the case of both parties shall come before God. He whom God declares guilty shall pay double to the other. God is the ultimate judge. See, Yeshua came with that message. God is the ultimate judge. You can stand before the judges of man. But even when he said that to the disciples and he sent them out, he said, when you stand before the judges of man, and you will, not your words, be led by the Holy Spirit. Let the Holy Spirit fill your mouth with what to say. When you're being deposed, your lawyers will give you lots and lots of counsel, but the fact of the matter is answer the question asked of you. Be honest. Fully honest, as if God himself were sitting there with you. Because ultimately, he is the ultimate judge. You're not going to stand before Bob. You're going to stand before the Lord. When a man gives to another an ass, an ox, a sheep, or other animal to guard, and it dies or is injured or is carried off with no witness about, an oath before the Lord shall be decided between the two of them, that the one has not laid hands on the other's on the property of the other, the owner must acquiesce, and no restitution shall be made. Why should I be punished for taking care of something for you and it dies in my care if I did everything I was supposed to do? I was doing you a favor, Nathan.
I was just thinking about the teacher catching you. Didn't you know Numbers 32, 23 and said, be sure your sin will find you out?
I knew it that day. The only number I was calculating was after graduation how much money I was going to make. But you know, I didn't become a teacher, I became a salesman. That's exactly right. Now I work for the best company of all. But if the animal was stolen from him, he shall make restitution to its owner. If it was torn by beasts, he shall bring it as evidence. He did not replace it, what has been torn by beasts. So if it was killed, there's going to be a carcass. Bring the carcass. Prove it. Let the evidence speak for itself. Whenever we try to get involved when there's just the truth right there, all kinds of spiritual things start taking place. How do I say it? How will they hear it? What do I say? What will they hear? What do they really think of me? Do they really think I did it? You know, I ask a lot of questions. If you're ever on the phone with me, I'll ask you a lot of questions. Okay, many of you get defensive. I ask you questions because I don't know the answer. That's how I learn things. That's how I find out. I ask them very probing questions, and I ask a lot of them. But if I don't ask a lot of questions, I don't get the whole picture, and I have to connect the dots. And if I only connect the dots with 4 little corners to connect the dots, I don't have all the information. So I ask you a lot of questions. About the 8th or 9th question, some people think, well, why are you interrogating me? Well, because I still don't have a complete picture. I'm having to pull out of you information so that I can make an accurate assessment of the situation. I'm not accusing you of anything. As a matter of fact, I haven't even thought of the end. I'm still getting information. I don't know what the pieces are going to be put together to look like. I'm just gathering pieces. People should be able to ask questions without people getting defensive, but we become so defensive, believing that you did something wrong, believing that somebody's going to, and you know, many of my conversations end, okay, great, now I understand, thanks. They're like, that's it? Well, yeah, now I have a complete picture. I now understand what happened. I now understand the situation. Thanks for letting me know. Love, you mean it, bye. But if I based it on the first piece of information you gave me, I would have gotten it all wrong. So you have to be able to take probing questions to find out, to give a full report. Now, those of you who have worked with me for a while know, tell me everything up front. I'm going to get it all out of you no matter what, and it's going to be a lot harder on you than it is on me. I ask questions all day long. All day long. So just come forward and say it all, and then it's like, okay, great. Okay, then it's a non-issue. Okay, you got that handled. I don't want the details. I just want to know you got it handled. Yeah, I had this situation, this situation, this situation. Okay, and it's all resolved? Yep, I don't even need to know who it's with. But if you say, listen, Rabbi, I have this situation. Now I got to start the questions. Okay, what happened? Who was involved? When did that happen? Why did that happen? Who did this? Who did that? Who did that? Who did this? You know, well, in the end of the conversation, they go, we got it all worked out. And I said, well, if you would have told that to me to start out with, I would have just said, thanks for making me aware that it happened. God bless you. That's the end of it. But now you feel challenged and you feel interrogated, you know, stuff, and all I'm looking for is the information. If you just say, hey, here's what happened, here's what, yeah, okay, we handled it. Okay, great, thanks. Appreciate you letting me know. It's all God wants. He wants a fair and adequate report. If it was torn by beasts, bring the carcass. That's it. When I drag your dead animal in, okay, and he's got a big hunk out of his side, is there going to be a whole big conversation? Oh, killed by wild beast. Yep. Okay, man, no restitution needed. It's over. I guess you could say, well, was it your lion? Well, it was. Okay, so you fed it to him. So now it wasn't, you know, I guess technically it was killed by wild beasts, and that's why we have lawyers. Okay? When a man borrows an animal from another and dies, if the owner was with it No restitution need to be made, but okay. When a man borrows an animal from another and it dies or is injured, its owner not being with it, he must make restitution. That means if I borrow something from you and I don't take care of it, I borrow your lawnmower. I leave your home with the lawnmower. I put it on my front porch. I take off and go do some other mess, and I come and it's gone, come back and it's gone. I'm negligent. I didn't take care of what it was that you entrusted me with, because taking care of it meant securing it. So if I'm not with it, I haven't secured it. Now, if I chained it down, I locked it down, well, that would be doing due diligence. If the owner was with it, no restitution need to be made. But if it was hired, he's entitled to the hire. That means if I rented it out, okay, I have 4 ox and you need 5. So I go get one from you and I put it with my 4. Okay, now I rent it out. Okay, and it gets injured and I get paid for that. I get paid for the work, and it was your animal that got injured. Well, I owe you that money. That's fair. Okay, but if I borrowed it, and while it was with me, I made money for it, and nothing happened to it, and everything was fine, I return it to you in its original condition. You know, if I borrow your lawnmower and I go mow somebody's lawn for money, well, I did the work. I used your lawnmower, but I get the money. But if while I'm there, the lawnmower breaks, okay, right at the end of the job, well, technically you should get the money. I messed you up. That'll be used for the repairs, and I shouldn't prosper from your loss. And that's the whole concept that's being established here, is profiting from your loss is not good. It's like building on another man's foundation. Not good. Stealing sheep. Not good. Every one of you have heard me say, I am not a sheep stealer. Okay? If you are called here to Congregation Bethel, come here. Okay? We don't solicit membership. Period. If you're going somewhere else, go. God bless you. If you feel led to leave there, that's God's calling, not my calling. I don't solicit anybody. Not my job. I'm not a sheep stealer. I'll tend to the flock that God gave me. I won't admire, I won't covet, I won't go out and take what doesn't belong to me. And many of you have heard me who have come for counsel, who I know are members of other congregations, and I'll say to you, I can't offer you counsel. Go talk to your pastor. Go check in with him on this decision. Well, I can't approach him. Well, then you have a problem you need to deal with that's much bigger than this issue. I'm more than happy to counsel you, but not while you're under his covering. You came in with an umbrella in your hand, and you want to come under my umbrella. Sorry, if you don't like that umbrella, return that umbrella. That's between you and the person who gave you the umbrella. Okay? If you come in wet, and I know you don't have no covering, I'd be more than happy to bring you under the covering of Bethel. But if you come carrying an umbrella, okay, go return the umbrella. Come empty-handed. Don't come with another covering and ask me to comment on another person's counsel, another person's teaching, another person's preaching, another person's ministry, another person's government. Any of those things, you're not going to get any sympathy or compassion from me. Go resolve your matter with that pastor and with that congregation. Be done with it, and then if you're going to be searching, search. I'll be more than happy. If you come in wet, I'll be more than happy to talk to you. But if you come in dry, it means you're under a covering. Says you can't serve 2 masters. You'll learn to love the one and hate the other. Okay? Many of you have called me and said, well, so-and-so, I just went and heard so-and-so preach, and this is what he said. What do you say about that? I say, call him. You got a question about his preaching or his teacher, go to, oh, he's not approachable. I believe you have your answer. Earl. That's correct. That's exactly right. That's right. That's exactly right. This is good business practice, good business principles. Bethel is founded on good, solid business and biblical practices. the way we handle money, the way we account, the way we allocate, the way we give, the way we support, the way we conduct our business, the way that we don't put the congregation in debt, the way that we manage these kind of resources, the way that we open ourselves up to widows, to orphans, to single moms, to those kind of situations from a provision. When a family's in need, whoosh, that's where we're going to direct our efforts. Okay? And it's a community that's built that way, biblically. And I feel very, very comfortable that it's built on sound, good wisdom, good judgment. Okay? Any request you make, you'll get one of three answers, and only one of three. Yes, no, or not now. It's the only three answers that are in the Bible. It's the only three answers God gives. Yes, no, or not now. It's just that simple. And they may all be very good requests that we just can't do them all now. Or some of them go against the long-term vision. Now, everybody deserves a certain amount of explanation. One time. But when you come back the second time and you want probing more and more and more, well, why aren't we going to do this? And I heard your answer. Well, then that gets into more of God's business and becomes more challenging. We all have to be willing to submit to authority. And oh, by the way, you shall depose before God. You must stand before God. You must go before God. You must testify before God. In a system, a hierarchical system such as that, then God, as the judge, will judge every decision made. And there'll be full accountability. And things that weren't will become, and things that were will become not. And as you see change take place and you trust the fact that it's under good, solid, biblical wisdom and counsel, and that's how congregations grow. But they stay within this firm foundation, this solid foundation of good business principles. If we have money allocated for benevolence, we don't use it for the building fund. If we have money allocated for the building fund, we don't use it for oneg. We'd rather do without than do it the wrong way. It's just that simple. We don't fill jobs because we have a need, because then we'd be putting the wrong people in the wrong place, and then there's friction and there's difficulty. If there's a need, it'll just go undone. If it went undone last week and we survived, it can go undone this week and we'll still survive. But putting the wrong person in the wrong job just because we have a need will be unfulfilling to the congregation and very unfulfilling and will cause an offense, and that person will ultimately leave. Because we made a mistake by putting a person in a position just because there was a need. Won't do it. Just won't do it. And God's economy doesn't work. Each one of you have gifts. If we don't find a way to use your gifts and we just put you because you're willing, I'd rather have you underutilized and frustrated because you're not doing enough than have you unhappy because you're doing the wrong thing. And responding to you and saying to you, oh, well, you said you want to do something, well, go do this. Well, that's not where your gifting is. It's where your failing is. Okay? I mean, a gift of inventory, spiritual gift of inventory is what you call it, has 25 things on it, ranging from the top to the bottom. Okay? If I have an opening at the bottom of your list, you're going to be pretty darn unhappy pretty quick. So finding out what you're called to do and using your gifting, okay, is going to make you very fulfilled. And you'd be surprised at what things become so rewarding and so fulfilling that seem insignificant to this person or so significant to that person because you're flowing in the gifts and the calling that you're in, because that's what you love to do. And just because we have a need, we're not going to put somebody in it. And so this lays a foundation of common sense, of common business practice, of common life practice, of resolving border disputes and neighborly situations. When you're in a community like this, when you're in a community like Israel, in an agricultural community, people did borrow. People did exchange. It was a symbiotic relationship in a community. It should be a symbiotic relationship in here. I see some of you pull up with a truck with a lawnmower on it, and it moves it to this person's truck, and then next week it brings it back. And I see that going on even in the congregation. And it should be, or people going to somebody's house to help out here, or people going over there to help out here, or this one babysitting, or this one dog sitting, or this one doing this. That's the way it should be. Danielle's working today at Yankee Candle, but she takes care of the dogs for me during the day. She comes in each day while I'm at the office. On the days she's not working, takes care of the dogs. If something happens to the dogs while they're in Danielle's care, this establishes, she didn't abuse them. She's not going to be responsible. Okay? You were there with them, yep. Okay. And just fell over, yep. Okay. Okay. But if you come home and they're electrocuted, well, then you know that, what happened to my dog? Oh, nothing. The ears standing straight up and the big eyes are big giveaway. Something happened. All right, verse 15. If a man seduces a virgin for whom the bride price is not be paid and lies with her, he must make her his wife by payment of a bride price. Okay, what are we talking about here? And we're talking about rape. In this society, you didn't lay with a virgin. Virgin can't be married off. I mean, a virgin can be married off. An unmarried woman who's had sex was not suitable to be married. Sex outside of marriage was not an acceptable practice. If you come to me for counseling, you'll hear, if you want premarital counseling, you'll hear these statements from me. If you're living together, move out, or I won't marry you. If you're having sex, stop, or I won't marry you. At some point, you are going to honor the premarital commitment. Love can wait. Lust cannot. And I'm not going to marry somebody out of lust. I'm not going to put my blessing on that marriage because of lust. Love can wait. Lust cannot. And so if it's real love, you can wait. Well, I don't have anywhere to live. Well, live with your mom. Live with her mom. Okay? You're going to have to live with her mom for the rest of your life. You might as well get used to it now. Okay? Now, if that discourages you from coming from counseling, well then, okay. You didn't come to me before. So if her father refuses to give her to him, he must still weigh out silver in accordance with the bride price for virgins. That's the father's choice. Okay? He knows what's going to happen to her if she's been raped. And she doesn't want to marry him, or he doesn't want him for a son-in-law. Okay? It was a little bit less violent. Okay? It was more what I would consider to be an offense or a crime of opportunity, more so than the violent, horrid, demonic activity of today. Not that it was ever acceptable. Yes, Linda Jo.
I find it interesting what's not mentioned here in contrast to our society today, because it doesn't say, or if a virgin entices a man, that's not even thought in the realm of possibility.
Mm-mm.
And yet we're teaching our young women that their value is in their sexual value, and culture's just really rotten on this now.
Well, without hormone-injected beef, without hormone-injected chicken, girls didn't have breasts until they were of age, until they naturally developed. This early development of the woman's body has changed everything, and it's because of the hormones in the food. And so young girls are developing and thinking, because I look like this, I can act this way. Boys are looking at young girls, because they look like that, the assumption is they must be much older, because there's still this connection between womanhood and development. And now we have all this underage stuff going on, okay? And it has to do with what's permeated our food, but these things that make cattle grow faster and have more lean meat and all these things are the same hormones that stimulate the physical development. And so we have this whole situation that we've created as a society because we didn't follow God's word. And so this is what we have that we're facing. Well, 15, 13 for a boy, 15 for a girl. Being married at 13, 14, or 15, but, and certainly it all had to do with menstruation. It all had to do with the cycle. So you were considered a woman when you had your first period. Okay? So when we look at young girls today, and when they have their first period and what the timing of all that is, it comes much earlier than it did, which means that they're now able to have children. And so we've stimulated a lot of things with chemistry, and it's not better living through chemistry, but we've stimulated a lot of this. Okay? So it varied, and it varied in God's economy, that a young girl at 13 was mature because of things that in the environment and her lifestyle and what she was physically ready for, and spiritually ready and socially ready and all these other things. But another one may have been 15. Okay? But a boy's rite of passage was at 13. Okay? Because he now had responsibility. What does adulthood mean? Biblical adulthood means that as a parent, I'm no longer responsible to God for the decisions of my child. Doesn't mean I kick them out of the house. Doesn't mean at that age they have to go. But now they have enough of a foundation to make decisions on their own that they should be personally accountable to God for. And that if there's punishment to be met upon someone for accountability for their actions, they should take it directly. They're no longer under my covering. So when we do a bar or bat mitzvah, one of the prayers that the parents say is, I thank God that I no longer have responsibility to God for this child. Okay? It's a very standard tradition to say this prayer that says that I'm now releasing you. You're now accountable for God. My work in that area of accountability, I've now laid a strong enough foundation, and the parent is saying, I've laid a strong enough foundation where I am now able to release you to be accountable to God. So now if you sin before the Lord, you take the heat. Okay? I'm going to grieve with you. You don't disconnect, but the truth of the matter is that when things happen, you now can say, I've released you into the hands of the Lord. If this is what the Lord, you need to take a look at what you're doing as to why this is happening, if you're responsible or not. I believe in the concept of pruning and discipline. And that if you're in sin, God will discipline you until you stop the sin. And so if your world's crashing and crumbling around about you, your finances, your job, your house, your family, your things are bad, and you're in sin, that's a question I will ask you when you come to me and say, my world is crumbling around me, and I'll say, is there anything you're doing you need to stop? Because if you want it to stop, you need to stop. Well, no, but things are really rough. Okay, well, if your life is bearing fruit for the Lord, that's great. But He wants you to bear more fruit. And the way you bear more fruit is by pruning to make room for new growth. Okay? They feel the same. Imagine the rose bush. Imagine the crepe myrtle. Okay, you go out there in the winter and you cut that crepe myrtle back. It looks like you killed it. Okay, and it says, "Oh no, they're coming to kill me." And you start cutting and cutting, and they're killing me. They're killing me. They're killing me. They're killing me. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And then spring comes and they go, "Hey, check me out. I'm looking pretty darn good, aren't I? I'm a lot fuller than I was last year." And they go, "Hey, this pruning stuff really works. I kind of like this stuff." "Oh, that hurts. You're killing me. You're killing me. Killing me." You can't tell the difference. You're taking a sharp object or something, and it hurts. Discipline and pruning feel the same. So the only way you know the difference is by to assess whether or not your life is bearing fruit for the Lord. If you're not bearing fruit for the Lord, it's because you're in sin and you're being disciplined. If you're bearing fruit for the Lord, He wants you to bear more fruit, so He'll prune you to make room for new growth. He prunes congregations to make room for new growth. If there's people here who are spiritually on the fringe, on the edge, and they're keeping us from expanding our territory, God will move them out. So if you don't see somebody for a while and God's moved them out, we wish them well on their new location. I love everybody equally. We wish you well in your new location. God calls you here. God also releases you. If you're here for a season, do it the right way. Come, gather as much as you can, learn as much as you can, so when you go out, you'll do it the right way. And if you have real integrity and you know that you're here for a season to learn, say so. Hey, I want to join the congregation because I want to learn as much as I possibly can because I really believe God's calling me to start Jewish roots work in Topeka, Kansas, and I really want to say, great, listen, I have all this stuff for you. I got all this stuff over here. I can help you. I've done this before. But if you come in and all of a sudden then you start na over here and a little griping over here and griping over there, and all of a sudden say, well, I'm leaving. Well, it sure looks different than me calling you forward and laying hands on you and blessing you before the whole congregation and sending you out and saying, this person is going off to Topeka, Kansas to start a new work. Please pray for them. If you're interested in supporting them and you want to sign up for the newsletter, God bless you. Send them out. Okay? Let's give them a round of applause. Let's pray for them. And here's a parting gift. Vanna? What do we have for Bob today? But that's the right way to do it. Okay? Don't just slip off and disappear. Okay? Be very open and honest. Okay? If we're open and honest about what our mission here is in Birmingham and what our vision for this congregation is, you can be just as open and honest what the vision is for your life. And if it's here to gather information and learn everything you can learn because you want to start a congregation, great. If you want to start in Birmingham, you're going to have a problem with the Lord. You won't have a problem with me. What God allows and what God blesses are two completely different things. Things done properly are blessed. Okay? But if you want to start one in Topeka, Kansas, where they have a need, come see me, if that's what the call on your life is. I saw a hand.
The cause of big problems in our lives a lot of times when we don't realize what it is. What is the definition of sin?
What is the definition of sin? Going against God's laws, going against God's words.
Transgression of the law. That's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
The transgression of the law.
Absolutely.
People don't realize why they're not.
Right.
Things aren't going right.
It's transgression of the law. So you're not under the law. That goes back to that whole original statement of I'm not under the law. If you're not under the law, then what's sin? Okay? So there is no sin. It says all things are permissible. Paul said this. All things are permissible. All things aren't beneficial.
And it say too, anything that's not of faith is sin. The scriptures say anything that's not of faith is sin.
Anything that's not of faith, faith. Okay? Don.
When I read this about a month ago, it just hit me what God wants to do, like a situation where sex before marriage and there may be a baby on board. The guy should marry the wife if, because it's the act of marriage, the sex act, and but if the girl's parents say, no, this isn't a good fit, then he's supposed to make some kind of restitution, and it makes sense.
Right.
You know?
He's supposed to provide for the support of the child that he fathered. Okay? But we just don't want you to be actively involved in raising this child. You've already proven yourself to be somebody that's not of the character that we want in this family. Okay? But the restitution is marry. People say, well, I want to do the right thing. Well, here's what the right thing is. The right thing is to marry the girl. Let me tell you, in arranged marriages throughout the world, divorce usually doesn't happen. First couple of years are very rough and rocky and very, very difficult. Very difficult as two people get to know each other. But so is the first 2 years of marriage for people that knew each other. I don't see any difference as I look at arranged marriages. Oh, well, we were high school sweethearts and stuff like that. Well, when we got married, things got a little rough. Yeah, well, they never met each other before the wedding day. Okay? And after they got married, things were a little rough. Yeah, well, people take time to adjust. Okay? So you got thrown together because you had sex outside of marriage. Okay? It's going to be rough. It's rough for any two people both with their own agendas, both with their own different upbringing, to put two people together of any kind, whether or not it's good circumstance, bad circumstance, well-planned, big wedding, no wedding, married on the beach, married at the courthouse, married at the country club, doesn't really matter, doesn't make any difference at all. People have to work through stuff, and if this is how your marriage started, that's how your marriage started. We're celebrating our son's 30th birthday and our 25th anniversary. Lots of places like that today. Right? They lived together, they had a child together. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary. We got married on our son's birthday. He was 5. Better that than not knowing who the parent is. Better that than abortion. And then, of course, there's always the option of adoption, which is a wonderful option, which brought me my daughter. Some of you are adopted, some of you have adopted kids. And if it wasn't for people that were willing to adopt, where would all these babies be? So it's very important for us to understand that God's system is just. God's system is fair. It is equitable, and it takes people out of the equation, because if we apply our own sense of what's fair and what's unfair, everybody has a different standard. If we don't abide by an agreed upon standard, which is the biblical standard, which is God's word, not man's interpretation of God's word, but God's word, his literal word. This is the situation. This is what happened. What does the word say? If we both agree to use the Bible as our rule and guide, God's word, then disputes are resolved. I don't have to get angry and offended and go through all this stuff. You make restitution. Okay? It's my decision whether or not I'll ever lend you another ox. If I lend you another ox and you prove to be trustworthy again, well, I might do it again. But if the second time it happens, my ox dies, shame on me for doing it a third time. I'm foolish. Common sense. All right, our time has ended. God bless all of you. I want to take some prayer requests. I'd like you to ask you all to